The lawyer's office smelled like old paper and expensive cologne. Stephen Moore sat across from Robert Hayes, watching the younger man shuffle through a stack of documents that represented the last tangible piece of his marriage. "Mr. Moore, I understand this is difficult," Hayes said, his voice carefully neutral. "But selling the beach property is probably the right decision. It's been sitting vacant for 8 months now, and property taxes alone—" "It hasn't been vacant," Stephen interrupted, his voice rough from disuse. At 67, he'd gotten used to long silences. "My wife, Donna, went there every 6 to 8 weeks, for maintenance." Hayes nodded sympathetically, pushing the sales contract across the mahogany desk. "Of course, I just meant since Mrs. Moore passed. I'm very sorry for your loss." Stephen stared at the document without really seeing it. 8 months since cancer had taken Donna. 12 years since a drunk driver had taken their son Brian. The beach house had once been their sanctuary, but after Brian's death, Stephen couldn't bear to set foot in it. The memories were too sharp, too present. "There's something odd, though," Stephen said, pulling a folder from his briefcase. "These are the utility bills for the past 6 months. The electricity usage is high, much higher than it should be for an empty house. And the water bill." He pointed to the numbers. "Someone's living there." Hayes frowned, studying the documents. "Have you reported this?" "Could be squatters." "I called the utility companies. They said the bills are being paid automatically from Donna's account. She set it up years ago." Stephen felt that familiar ache in his chest. Even in death, Donna was keeping secrets. "I need to see the house before we list it." An hour later, Stephen pulled his sedan onto the familiar coastal highway. The drive from the city took 2 hours, and with each passing mile, memories pressed closer. Brian at 7, excitedly pointing out the ocean the first time they made this trip. Donna at 35, wind in her hair, laughing as they carried boxes into their dream house. The 3 of them building sandcastles, grilling fish on the deck, watching sunsets that painted the sky in impossible colors. The house came into view, and Stephen's breath caught. It looked like something from a nightmare. The cheerful yellow paint had faded to a sickly gray-brown, streaked with rust from failing gutters. The porch sagged dangerously in the middle. Weeds had grown waist-high around the foundation, and several windows were cracked or missing screens entirely. Jessica Williams, the realtor, was already there, sitting in her white BMW with the engine running. She rolled down her window just enough to speak, her professionally cheerful expression cracking. "Mr. Moore, I have to be honest with you. I don't think we can list this property in its current condition. The exterior alone needs at least $40,000 in repairs, and that's before we even assess the interior." "Wait in the car," Stephen said, more sharply than he intended. "I need to look inside." The front steps creaked ominously under his weight. Stephen tested each board carefully, remembering how Brian used to leap up these stairs 3 at a time. The front door was swollen in its frame, and he had to shoulder it hard to force it open. The smell hit him first. Not the musty, moldy odor he'd expected from a house closed up for months. Instead, he smelled vanilla and strawberries. It was the scent of Donna's favorite bubble bath, the one she used to buy at the organic market in the city. The scent of home. Stephen stepped inside, his heart hammering. The living room was dark, curtains drawn tight, but there was enough light filtering through to see the furniture. Their old couch, the coffee table, the brick fireplace. Everything looked normal at first glance. Then his eyes adjusted, and he saw them. Toys. New toys scattered across the floor. Bright plastic dolls with shiny hair. Colorful building blocks, some still in their packaging. A small pink bicycle propped against the wall, the kind made for a child around 8 or 9 years old. On the coffee table, a coloring book lay open next to a cup of crayons, as if someone had just walked away mid-picture. "What the hell?" Stephen whispered. He moved through the room, his detective instincts kicking in, habits from 40 years as an insurance investigator. Children's books were stacked neatly on the side table. A small purple jacket hung on the coat hook by the door. In the kitchen, he found a bowl with cartoon characters sitting in the drying rack. The refrigerator hummed quietly, and when he opened it, he found milk, expired by 3 days, juice boxes, sandwich fixings, and a half-eaten container of yogurt. Someone was living here. A child was living here. Stephen pulled out his phone, ready to call the police, when he heard it. Footsteps. Light, quick footsteps running across the floor directly above his head. His first thought was squatters, maybe someone who'd broken in after Donna died. But who brings a child to an abandoned house? Unless... The footsteps moved toward the stairs. Stephen backed toward the front door, his pulse racing. He should leave. He should get Jessica and call the police. But something kept him frozen in place, watching as a small figure appeared at the bottom of the staircase. It was a little girl. She couldn't have been more than 9 years old, with curly brown hair that fell past her shoulders and enormous eyes that seemed too large for her delicate face. She wore a yellow sundress that looked clean but too big, and she clutched a stuffed gray cat against her chest. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. The girl didn't look scared. If anything, she looked relieved. Then she dropped the stuffed cat and ran straight toward him. "Grandpa Stephen!" she cried, throwing her small arms around his legs with such force that he had to grab the doorframe to keep from falling. "Grandpa, you came. Grandma Donna said you would come, but it's been so long and I was starting to get really scared." Stephen stood frozen, unable to process what was happening. This child, this stranger, was calling him Grandpa. She knew his name. She knew Donna. I don't understand," he managed to say. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" The girl pulled back and looked up at him, and that's when Stephen's world tilted on its axis. Her eyes, they were Brian's eyes, exactly Brian's eyes, that distinctive shade of green with tiny flecks of gold, the same unusual almond shape, even the same way one lid sat slightly lower than the other. Stephen had looked into those eyes for 25 years. He would know them anywhere. "I'm Amber," the girl said, as if it should be obvious. "I'm your granddaughter. Grandma Donna told me all about you. She showed me pictures and said you smell like coffee and newspapers. And you do." She smiled, a gap-toothed grin that made her look even younger. "She said you'd come take care of me when she went to heaven." Stephen's legs gave out. He sank down onto the couch, his mind reeling. Granddaughter. This child was claiming to be his granddaughter. But Brian had died 12 years ago. He'd been 25, unmarried, no serious girlfriend that Stephen knew of. How could he possibly have a child? Unless Brian had gotten someone pregnant right before he died, unless Donna had known about it and never told him. "Amber," Stephen said slowly, trying to keep his voice calm even though his heart was racing. "Sweetheart, I think there's been some kind of mistake. I don't have a granddaughter." "Yes, you do," Amber insisted, settling onto the couch beside him with the easy confidence of a child who knows she's right. "Me. My daddy was Uncle Brian. Grandma said he was really my daddy, not my uncle, but he went to heaven before I was born. She said he was brave and funny, and that he would have been the best daddy in the whole world." Stephen felt like he couldn't breathe. "How long have you been living here?" 3 years, Amber said matter-of-factly. "Before that, I lived with my mommy Emily, but she got really sick. Grandma Donna came and got me and brought me here, and she said this would be my forever home." Her voice wavered slightly. "But then Grandma got sick too, and she went to heaven 2 months ago, and Mrs. Patterson has been bringing me food, but I've been waiting and waiting for you." 2 months. This child had been essentially alone for 2 months, waiting for a grandfather she'd never met to come save her. Stephen looked at Amber's thin arms, the too big dress, the hope shining in those achingly familiar eyes. "Show me," he said quietly. "Show me the pictures Grandma Donna gave you." Amber's face lit up immediately. She grabbed his hand with both of hers and pulled him toward the stairs. "Come see my room. Grandma Donna made it so pretty for me." Stephen followed her up the creaking staircase, his mind racing with questions. The hallway looked much as he remembered it, but Amber led him to what had been the guest bedroom. She pushed open the door, and Stephen had to grab the doorframe for support. The room had been completely transformed. The walls were painted a soft lavender with white clouds stenciled across the ceiling. There was a twin bed with a purple comforter covered in butterflies, a white dresser, and shelves lined with children's books and toys. Everything was clean, organized, clearly loved. But it was the photographs that made Stephen's knees buckle. They covered every surface. Photos of Donna and Amber at the beach, building sandcastles, pictures of them in the kitchen, covered in flour while baking. Images of Donna reading to Amber in the big chair by the window, both of them laughing. And there, on the nightstand beside Amber's bed, was a photo Stephen recognized. It had hung on their mantel in the city for years. Brian at 23, grinning at the camera, full of life. Below it, in Donna's careful handwriting, were the words, "Your daddy, who loved you very much." "Grandma told me stories about him all the time," Amber said softly, climbing onto the bed. "She said he loved to read and that he could fix anything. She said he was going to be a teacher." She picked up the photo, tracing Brian's face with one finger. "I wish I could have met him." Stephen sat heavily on the edge of the bed, his hands shaking. "When is your birthday, Amber?" "March 15th. I'm 9. Grandma made me a Princess Castle cake." Amber put down Brian's photo and picked up another one. Donna and Amber at what was clearly a birthday party, both wearing paper crowns and laughing. March 15th. 9 years old. That would mean she was born in 2013, just 4 months after Brian died in November 2012. Brian had gotten someone pregnant, had a child, and Donna had known. For 9 years, no, for at least 3 years, Donna had known about this little girl and had kept it a complete secret. Stephen felt anger rising in his chest, hot and bitter. How could she? How could Donna hide his granddaughter from him, hide the fact that a piece of Brian still existed in the world? "Amber, honey, I need to ask you something," Stephen said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Do you know where Grandma Donna's room is?" "Yeah, it's the blue one at the end of the hall," but Amber bit her lip. "She didn't want me to go in there after she went to heaven. She said there were important papers for you." "Can you show me?" They walked down the hall together, Amber's small hand in his. The room that had once been his and Donna's marital bedroom had changed dramatically. The old queen bed was gone, replaced by a single twin. The dresser held only Donna's things, arranged with almost military precision. On the nightstand was a collection of pill bottles, chemotherapy drugs, anti-nausea medication, pain management, and beside them, a thick manila envelope with Stephen written on it in Donna's handwriting. "She told me to give you that when you came," Amber said quietly. "She said it would help you understand everything." Stephen picked up the envelope with trembling hands. Before he could open it, his phone rang. He glanced at the screen. It was a number he didn't recognize, but it had a local area code. "Mr. Moore?" An elderly woman's voice came through when he answered. "This is Dorothy Patterson. I live 3 houses down from you. I saw a car in your driveway and I wanted to check. Is that you, or should I call the police?" "Mrs. Patterson?" Stephen said, relief flooding through him. "Yes, this is Stephen Moore. I'm here at the house. Can I come talk to you? I have some questions." "Oh, thank goodness. I've been so worried about little Amber." "Come right over, dear. I'll put the kettle on." 10 minutes later, Stephen sat in Mrs. Patterson's tidy living room while Amber played with the elderly woman's cat in the corner. Dorothy Patterson was 82, sharp as a tack, and clearly eager to talk. "I've been bringing Amber groceries every week since Donna passed," Mrs. Patterson said, pouring tea into delicate china cups. "Donna paid me $200 a month to check on Amber, bring food, make sure she was all right. I didn't realize you didn't know about the situation, Mr. Moore. I thought Donna had told you." "Told me what exactly?" Stephen asked, fighting to keep his voice level. Mrs. Patterson settled into her chair, her expression sad. "About 3 years ago, Donna came to me. Said she needed help. She had her granddaughter staying at the beach house, but she couldn't be there all the time because of her treatments in the city. She asked if I could check on Amber, bring groceries, make sure the child wasn't alone too much." The old woman shook her head. "Donna was very private about it, said the situation was complicated with the mother, that there were legal issues being worked out. She made me promise not to tell anyone in town." "How often was Donna here?" "Every week at first, then every 2 weeks. The last 6 months, it was maybe once a month. The cancer was getting bad." Mrs. Patterson's eyes filled with tears. That poor woman. She'd drive 2 hours here, spend time with Amber, then drive 2 hours back for her chemotherapy appointments. I told her she should tell you, get help, but she always said you weren't ready, that you were still grieving Brian. Stephen set down his teacup before his shaking hands could spill it. "Did she tell you about Amber's mother?" "Only that her name was Emily, and that she died about 18 months ago from an overdose. Heroin, I think." Mrs. Patterson glanced at Amber, lowering her voice. "Donna said Emily had been Brian's girlfriend, that she got pregnant right before Brian died. The poor girl fell apart after losing him, turned to drugs. She managed to take care of Amber for the first few years, but eventually it got too bad. Donna took the child rather than let her go into the foster system. Everything was starting to make a horrible kind of sense, a tragic, painful sense that explained so much and yet answered nothing about why Donna had kept this secret for so long. Mrs. Patterson, in the last 2 months, has anyone else come around? Anyone looking for Amber? The old woman's expression darkened. About 3 weeks ago, 2 men came, rough-looking types. They knocked on your door for a good 10 minutes, then started walking around the property, looking in windows. I called out to them, asked what they wanted. They said they were friends of Emily's, that they needed to talk to Amber about something her mother left behind. She straightened in her chair. I told them to leave or I'd call the police. They left, but I've seen that truck drive by a few times since then. Ice ran through Stephen's veins. What kind of truck? Blue pickup, older model, quite beat up. Stephen stood abruptly. Mrs. Patterson, thank you for everything you've done for Amber, but I need to get back to the house and look at those papers Donna left. Would you mind if Amber stayed here for just a little while longer? Of course not, dear. Take your time. Back at the beach house, Stephen sat on Donna's bed and opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside were several documents, a birth certificate, a DNA test result, legal papers, and 2 handwritten letters. He started with the birth certificate. Name, Amber Rose Moore. Date of birth, March 15, 2013. Father, Brian. Michael Moore. Mother, Emily Rose Jackson. There it was, in official black and white. Brian was Amber's father. Stephen had a granddaughter, and he'd never known. The DNA test was next. It confirmed with 99.9% certainty that Brian Moore was the father of Amber Rose Moore. It was dated 2.5 years ago. Donna had known the truth, had it tested and confirmed, and had never said a word. The first letter was written on lined notebook paper in handwriting Stephen didn't recognize, young, loopy, with hearts dotting the I's. Dear Mrs. Moore, I don't know if you remember me. I'm Emily Jackson. Brian and I were together for about 6 months before the accident. I loved him so much. When he died, I felt like I died too. I need to tell you something, and I'm so sorry I waited this long. I have a daughter. Amber. She's Brian's. I was pregnant when he died, but I was too scared and too messed up to tell anyone. I thought I could handle being a mom by myself, but I can't. After Brian died, I started using heroin. I've been trying to stop for Amber's sake, but I can't. I'm not strong enough. I'm going to die soon, Mrs. Moore. I can feel it, and I can't let Amber end up in foster care or with my family. My brother Tyler is a drug dealer. He's dangerous. If he finds out about Amber, he'll try to use her to get to me, to control me. He's already threatened it. That's why I never told him Brian was Amber's father. I've kept her hidden, kept her safe, but I can't do it anymore. Please, Mrs. Moore, Amber is your granddaughter. She's Brian's daughter. She deserves better than what I can give her. I'm begging you, take care of her, love her. Don't let Tyler find her. I'm attaching some pictures of Amber. She has Brian's eyes. She has his kind heart. Please don't let her end up like me. I'm so sorry for everything. Emily Jackson. The letter was dated 3.5 years ago. Attached to it were several photographs of a small girl with curly hair and green eyes. Even in the faded photos, the resemblance to Brian was unmistakable. Stephen's hands were shaking as he picked up the second letter. This one was in Donna's handwriting, dated 4 months before she died. My dearest Stephen, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone and you've found Amber. I know you're probably angrier with me right now than you've ever been in our 40 years of marriage. I know I should have told you. I wanted to tell you so many times, but I was afraid. When Emily came to me 3.5 years ago, you were barely functioning. Brian had been gone for 8 years, and you still couldn't say his name without breaking down. You'd stopped going to the beach house because everywhere you looked, you saw memories of him. You were just starting to have days where you could smile, where you could think about the future without that crushing weight on your chest. I was terrified that if I told you about Amber, it would destroy you all over again. Or worse, that you'd feel obligated to take on a responsibility you weren't ready for, and you'd resent her. Resent Brian. Resent me. So I made a decision. I would take care of Amber myself. I would give her a safe, loving home while giving you time to heal. I thought I had more time, Stephen. I thought I'd have years to figure out how to tell you, to prepare you, to bring you two together naturally. But then I got sick, and suddenly time ran out. Amber is the most beautiful, intelligent, loving child you could ever imagine. She has Brian's eyes, his gentle spirit, his curious mind. She's been through so much: neglect, instability, watching her mother deteriorate. But she still believes in goodness, still believes in love, still believes in family. She believes in you, Stephen. I've told her so many stories about her grandfather, who builds things and fixes things and makes everything better. I've shown her your pictures. I've promised her that when I'm gone, you'll take care of her, and she believes that promise with her whole heart. I know this is a lot to ask, especially after keeping such a huge secret. But Stephen, Amber needs you. She needs a family. She needs someone who will love her unconditionally and protect her. And I hope, that you need her too. Emily died 18 months ago from an overdose. Her brother Tyler has been looking for Amber ever since. He thinks Emily hid something. Money, drugs, evidence, I don't know. He believes Amber knows where it is, or that she has it. Tyler is dangerous, Stephen. That's why I've kept Amber hidden here. That's why I worked with a lawyer to get temporary guardianship papers. That's why I made arrangements. All the legal documents are in this envelope: birth certificate, DNA test, guardianship papers. I've also included information from my lawyer, Robert Hayes. He has copies of everything and knows the full situation. He's been helping me prepare everything so that when the time came, you could get full custody of Amber quickly. Stephen, I'm so sorry for the pain this secret has caused. I'm sorry for the years you've missed with your granddaughter. I'm sorry for leaving you alone with this impossible situation. But I'm not sorry for saving Amber. And I hope in time you won't be either. Please don't let my mistakes or my secrets keep you from loving her. She's waited her whole life to meet her grandfather, and I believe with all my heart that you two are exactly what each other needs. I love you, Stephen Moore. I have loved you since I was 17 years old. Everything I did, right or wrong, was out of love. Please take care of our granddaughter. Always yours. Donna. Stephen read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down his face. Anger, grief, love, and loss churned in his chest until he couldn't tell one emotion from another. Donna had lied to him for 3 years, had kept his granddaughter, Brian's daughter, hidden from him, had made monumental decisions about their family without ever giving him a choice. But she'd also saved a little girl. She'd given Amber a home when no one else would. She'd protected her from danger. She'd loved her. And now that little girl was sitting in a neighbor's house, waiting for a grandfather she'd never met, trusting that he would keep the promise Donna had made. Stephen looked at the legal documents: temporary guardianship papers, properly notarized and witnessed. A letter from Emily giving Donna permission to take Amber. Medical records showing Amber was healthy and up to date on vaccinations. School records. Apparently Donna had been homeschooling her using online resources. At the bottom of the envelope was one more item: a business card for Robert Hayes, attorney at law, with a handwritten note: Robert knows everything. Call him. He'll help you. Stephen pulled out his phone and dialed. The call went straight to voicemail. Mr. Hayes, this is Stephen Moore. I'm at the beach house and I've found Amber. I need to speak with you urgently about guardianship arrangements. Please call me back as soon as possible. He hung up and sat in silence for a long moment, holding Donna's letter. Then he looked around the small room where his wife had lived a secret life, caring for a granddaughter he'd never known existed. Finally, he stood, carefully placed all the documents back in the envelope, and walked back to Mrs. Patterson's house. When he knocked on the door, he could hear Amber's laughter inside. The little girl appeared in the doorway, hope and fear mingled on her face. Grandpa Stephen, are you going to stay? Stephen knelt down, so he was at her eye level. He looked into those eyes, Brian's eyes, and felt something inside his chest crack open. Not breaking, but thawing, melting after being frozen for 12 years. Yes, sweetheart, he said softly. I'm going to stay. Amber threw her arms around his neck, and Stephen held his granddaughter for the first time, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo and feeling her small heart beating against his chest. He had so many questions still unanswered, so many problems to solve. Tyler Jackson was looking for Amber. The legal situation was complicated. He was 67 years old and had no idea how to raise a 9-year-old girl. But as Amber clung to him, whispering, "I knew you'd come, I knew it," Stephen made a decision. He would figure it out. He would protect her. He would be the grandfather Donna had believed he could be. Because this little girl, this miracle who had Brian's eyes and Donna's faith, was family. And Stephen Moore never abandoned family. The seaside motel wasn't luxury, thin walls, worn carpet, and a rattling air conditioner, but it was clean and safe. Stephen paid cash for 3 nights while he figured out his next move. Amber sat cross-legged on one of the double beds, Mr. Whiskers in her lap, watching him unpack groceries with those unsettling green eyes. She'd been quiet since leaving the beach house. "Are you mad at Grandma Donna?" she asked suddenly. Stephen froze, sandwich bread in hand. "What makes you think that?" "You look angry and sad at the same time." Amber tilted her head. "Grandma said you might be angry when you found out about me." Stephen sat on the other bed, facing her. This child deserved honesty, not comfortable lies. "I am angry," he admitted. "Grandma Donna kept you secret for 3 years. I missed 3 years of knowing you, Amber. 3 years I could have helped." "But you were sad about Daddy," Amber said softly. "Grandma said losing a child broke your heart. She said she couldn't tell you because you might break even more." The words hit like a physical blow. "Sweetheart, you wouldn't have broken me. You're Brian's daughter. You're a gift. Then why do you still look angry?" "Because," Stephen struggled for the right words, "I'm angry at the situation. Angry your mom got sick. Angry Grandma got sick. Angry I didn't know you sooner." He took a breath. "But I'm not angry at you. Not even a little." Amber studied him for a long moment, then climbed onto his lap, something no child had done since Brian was small, and rested her head against his chest. "Grandma said love is stronger than anger," she whispered. Stephen wrapped his arms around her, feeling something inside him begin to thaw. The anger was still there, but underneath it was something that felt almost like hope. That night, after Amber fell asleep, Stephen made lists: legal guardianship, school, medical records, a safe home. The beach house was too isolated. He'd need to sell his condo, find something near good schools. The enormity crashed over him. He was 67. He'd been looking forward to quiet retirement. Instead, he was about to raise a 9-year-old he barely knew. What if he failed her? What if he couldn't protect her from Tyler Jackson? What if he was too old, too broken to be the grandfather Amber needed? His phone buzzed. Robert Hayes, the lawyer. "Can meet tomorrow 10 a.m. Bring Amber and documents. Complicated but manageable." Stephen texted back, "I'll be there." Then he called his brother Daniel. "Stephen, it's midnight. What's wrong?" 20 minutes later, after explaining everything, Daniel was silent. So Donna was secretly raising Brian's daughter for 3 years? Yes. "And you just found out today?" "Yes." "Jesus." A pause. "What are you going to do?" "Keep her. She's family, Danny, all I have left of Brian. But you're 67. Raising a kid at our age?" "I know it's crazy," Stephen's voice cracked, "but I can't lose another piece of my son. I already lost 12 years with Amber. I'm not losing any more." "Okay," Daniel said, and Stephen heard the support there. "What do you need?" "Just be there. I'm going to need help." "Always." Robert Hayes was a slender man in his 40s with kind eyes and an organized office. Children's drawings covered a corkboard. His own kids, he explained. "Mr. Moore, I'm glad you finally know about Amber. Donna struggled with keeping this secret, but she believed she was protecting you both." They reviewed documents. Donna had been thorough. Temporary guardianship was solid. Emily's custody letter was notarized. DNA proved Brian's paternity. But permanent guardianship was complicated. "We need a full social services evaluation," Hayes explained. "Home study, background checks, financial assessment takes 3 to 6 months normally." 6 months? Stephen's panic rose. "What happens to Amber meanwhile?" "She can stay with you under temporary guardianship, but if social services raises concerns, she could be placed in foster care during evaluation." Stephen looked at Amber, coloring in the corner. The thought of her taken away, placed with strangers. "That can't happen. She stays with me." "Then we move quickly," Hayes said. "I'll file emergency petition for temporary custody. We need DNA test confirming you're her biological grandfather." "Isn't Brian's test enough?" "Legally, we need direct relationship established. Results take a week." Hayes pulled out paperwork. "Meanwhile, I'll schedule the social services evaluation." An hour later, a medical technician swabbed their cheeks. Amber found it fascinating, asking questions about DNA and cells. "You're very smart," the technician said. "Grandma Donna taught me lots," Amber said proudly. Driving back to the motel, Stephen felt cautiously optimistic. Hayes seemed competent. The process was starting. Then he saw the blue pickup truck, parked across from the motel, the same truck Mrs. Patterson described. Stephen's heart pounded. He drove past the entrance, continuing down the street. "Grandpa, isn't that our motel?" Amber asked. "Change of plans. Let's get lunch first." In his rearview mirror, the truck pulled out, following. Stephen took 3 random turns. The truck stayed with them. Finally, he pulled into a crowded shopping center and called Detective Sarah Morrison, the number Hayes gave him. "Mr. Moore, what's wrong?" "Blue pickup following us. Might be Tyler Jackson." "Where are you?" Stephen gave the address. "Stay in your car in public. I'm 10 minutes away." Morrison's voice was serious. "What did Donna tell you about Tyler?" "Just that he's Emily's brother and dangerous. Looking for something he thinks Amber has." "He's more than dangerous. Tyler Jackson, drug trafficking, assault, suspected in 2 homicides. Currently under FBI investigation for heroin distribution." Morrison paused. "If he thinks Amber has evidence against him, he won't stop." Stephen glanced at Amber playing on his phone. "What would Emily have?" "Emily was talking to FBI before she died, going to testify against Tyler. Then she overdosed, officially accidental, but we had questions. If she hid evidence, he'd do anything to get it back." "Exactly. We need to keep Amber safe and find what Emily left." A police cruiser arrived, followed by an unmarked sedan. Detective Morrison was early 40s, short gray hair, no-nonsense demeanor. "Truck's gone," her partner reported. "Spooked when they saw us." Morrison looked at Amber through the window. "That's Emily's daughter?" "I see the resemblance. I interviewed Emily twice before she died. She was terrified of Tyler, kept saying she needed to protect her daughter." "What does that mean?" "Emily might have left insurance, something to keep Tyler away from Amber. We need to find it first." Back at the motel, with a police officer stationed outside, Stephen called Mrs. Patterson to check the beach house. She called back, voice shaking. "Mr. Moore, someone ransacked it. Drawers pulled out, mattresses flipped, toys everywhere. They were looking for something." Stephen felt ice in his veins. He looked at Amber watching cartoons, Mr. Whiskers beside her. "Amber, honey, did your mommy Emily ever give you anything special, something she told you to keep safe?" Amber thought. "She gave me Mr. Whiskers, said he'd always protect me." "Anything else?" "No, just Mr. Whiskers. Why?" Stephen picked up the stuffed cat, examining it. Worn gray plush, green button eyes. Then he noticed the belly stitching was different, newer thread, messier. "Amber, can I look inside Mr. Whiskers? I promise I'll sew him back up." She bit her lip. "Will it hurt him?" "No, sweetheart." "Like he's going to the doctor." With careful fingers, Stephen opened the seam. Inside the stuffing, his fingers touched something hard, a small USB drive wrapped in plastic. "What's that?" Amber asked. Stephen's hands shook. "I think this is what those men want." Detective Morrison arrived with 2 FBI agents. They examined the USB on a secure laptop. "This is gold," Morrison said. "Financial records, transactions, names, dates. Emily documented everything, Tyler's entire operation, enough to take down his whole network." Agent David Park leaned forward. "How long have you had this?" 20 minutes. Found it in my granddaughter's stuffed animal." "Tyler knows the child has it?" "He suspects." Park exchanged looks with his partner. "Then Amber's in danger. Tyler won't stop until he gets this back or eliminates the threat. That means eliminating Amber." "What do you suggest? Protective custody?" "No." Stephen's voice was firm. "She's been through enough. I won't put her in some safe house." "Mr. Moore, if Tyler decides the risk is too high, he might eliminate Amber entirely." The words hung like poison. Amber looked up from cartoons, sensing tension. "Is something wrong, Grandpa?" Stephen forced a smile. "No, sweetie. Boring grown-up stuff." After they left, taking the USB and promising increased patrols, Stephen sat on the bed, mind racing. Less than 24 hours ago, he didn't know Amber existed. Now he was protecting her from a violent criminal organization. His phone rang. Unknown number. His gut said, "Don't answer," but he pressed accept. Mr. Moore. The voice was male, cold, dangerous. We need to talk about my niece. Who is this? I think you know. Emily was my sister. Amber is my blood, and you have something that belongs to me. Stephen's hand tightened. Tyler Jackson. Smart man to... Here's what happens. Tomorrow night, 10 p.m., Old Lighthouse on Point Road. Bring the USB from the kid's toy. Come alone. And if I don't? Tyler's laugh was harsh. Then Amber becomes an orphan again. And believe me, you don't want to know what happens to little girls who know too much about my business. The line went dead. Stephen sat in the flickering TV light, watching Amber laugh at cartoons. He couldn't run, couldn't hide. Tyler would keep hunting until he got what he wanted or eliminated the threat. The only way to protect Amber was to end this. He called Detective Morrison. I need your help, and it's going to be dangerous. What are you thinking? A trap. Tyler wants the USB. Let's give it to him, with the FBI waiting. You understand what you're suggesting? You'd be bait. Stephen looked at Amber, at Brian's eyes in her small face, at the trust she'd placed in him. I'm 67 years old. I lost my son 12 years ago, he said quietly. If I can use the time I have left to make sure my granddaughter has a safe future, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Morrison was silent for a moment. We'll need to plan this carefully. Tyler's smart and dangerous. One wrong move. I understand the risks. All right, tomorrow morning we meet at my office. Bring Amber. We'll set her up with a child specialist while we work out details. The FBI will want in on this. After hanging up, Stephen tucked Amber into bed. She clutched Mr. Whiskers, now sewn back together. Grandpa? Are the bad men going away? Stephen brushed hair from her forehead. I'm going to make sure of it, sweetheart. I promise. Grandma said you always keep your promises. I do. Now sleep. As Amber's breathing evened into sleep, Stephen sat by the window, watching the dark parking lot. Somewhere out there, Tyler Jackson was planning, threatening, hunting. Tomorrow night at the lighthouse, this would end, one way or another. The next morning, Detective Morrison's office was crowded. Stephen sat across from Morrison, Agent Park, and 3 other FBI agents, while Amber stayed in a comfortable room down the hall with a child specialist named Linda Martinez. Here's the plan, Agent Park said, spreading a map of Point Road on the desk. The lighthouse is isolated. Rocky terrain, one access road, perfect for an ambush. We'll position teams here, here, and here. He pointed to locations around the lighthouse. You'll wear a wire, Mr. Moore. We need Tyler to incriminate himself on tape before we move in. What about Amber? Stephen asked. She stays at a secure location with Officer Martinez, 2 armed officers outside at all times. Tyler knows where she is somehow, Stephen said. He found us at the motel. Morrison nodded grimly. We suspect he has someone feeding him information. Could be a corrupt cop, could be someone in city services. We're running internal investigations, but until then we move Amber every few hours. Different locations, different routes. And the USB drive? Agent Park held up a small device. We're giving you a duplicate. Same appearance, but it's a dummy. We've already copied the original data. Even if something goes wrong and Tyler gets the drive, it'll be useless. Stephen spent the rest of the day being wired, rehearsing scenarios, reviewing the lighthouse location on satellite images. By evening, his nerves were stretched thin. He called Amber at the safe house, a comfortable apartment in a secured building. Grandpa, Officer Martinez taught me to play chess. Amber's voice was bright, oblivious to the danger. Can we play when you come back? Of course, sweetheart. I'll see you tomorrow morning, okay? Okay. Be careful, Grandpa. I love you. I love you too, Amber. At 9:30 p.m., Stephen drove toward Point Road, Detective Morrison and Agent Park following in an unmarked van half a mile behind. The lighthouse loomed against the dark sky, its light long extinguished, a skeletal structure of rust and concrete. Stephen parked where Tyler had instructed and stepped out of the car, the wire hidden under his shirt, the dummy USB drive in his jacket pocket. The ocean crashed against rocks below, wind whipping around the desolate point. At exactly 10 p.m., headlights appeared. 2 vehicles, the blue pickup and a black sedan. Stephen's heart pounded as 4 men emerged. Tyler Jackson was younger than Stephen expected, mid-30s, with hard eyes and a lean, dangerous build. Two men flanked him, both carrying visible weapons. The fourth man stayed by the sedan. "Mr. Moore," Tyler said, his voice carrying over the wind, "I appreciate you being reasonable." "I just want this to end," Stephen said, forcing steadiness into his voice. "Leave my granddaughter alone, and you can have what you want." Tyler smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. Not quite that simple. That's when the sedan's back door opened, and Stephen's blood turned to ice. Amber stumbled out, pushed forward by the fourth man. Her hands were zip-tied, tear tracks on her face, but she wasn't hurt. When she saw Stephen, she cried out, "Grandpa, let her go!" Stephen lunged forward, but Tyler's men raised their weapons. "Easy, old man," Tyler said. "Here's how this works. You give me the USB, I verify it's real, then maybe I let you both walk away." In his earpiece, Stephen heard Agent Park's urgent whisper, "Don't engage. We're moving into position. Stall him." "You said come alone," Stephen said, his voice shaking with rage. "You said bring the drive. You didn't say anything about taking Amber?" "Insurance," Tyler replied. "Emily was my sister and she betrayed me, cost me millions, put my entire operation at risk. I'm not making that mistake twice." He gestured to Amber. "The kid's her daughter. For all I know, Emily told her things, taught her things. I can't have loose ends." "She's 9 years old. She doesn't know anything about your business." "That's what we're going to find out. Now give me the drive." Stephen's hand went to his pocket, but he hesitated. If he gave Tyler the dummy drive, Tyler would know immediately it was fake. The real data had thousands of files. The dummy had superficial copies that wouldn't stand up to any real examination. "There's something else you should see first," Stephen said, pulling an envelope from his jacket instead. "Donna left this. It's from Emily. She wrote it before she died." Tyler's expression flickered, the first crack in his cold facade. "What?" "A letter. To you. About Amber." Stephen had found the letter that morning, tucked in another envelope Donna had left. It was Emily's handwriting, shaky but legible, written on pages torn from a notebook. Tyler snatched the envelope, ripping it open. As he read under the flashlight one of his men held, his face changed. Stephen couldn't hear what Emily had written, but he saw Tyler's jaw clench, saw something that might have been pain flash across his features. The letter took 2 pages. Emily had written about her love for her brother, about how addiction had destroyed her, about her regrets, and she'd written about Amber, begging Tyler to let her daughter have a normal life, to let go of whatever Emily had done, to remember the man he'd been before drugs and violence had consumed him. "Tyler, you're my brother. I love you, but I can't let you hurt my daughter. If you're reading this, it means I'm gone. Please, let Amber have a chance. The evidence is yours. Do what you want with it, but leave her alone. She's innocent. She's all I have that's good in this world. Don't take that away. Emily." For a moment, Tyler just stood there, the letter trembling in his hands. Then he looked at Amber, really looked at her, and Stephen saw the war playing out on his face. This was his niece, his sister's child, the last piece of family he had left. "Uncle Tyler?" Amber's voice was small, frightened. "Mommy talked about you sometimes. She said you used to build her tree houses." Tyler flinched as if she'd struck him. That's when everything went wrong. One of Tyler's men, the one called Jake, suddenly shouted, "Cops, he's wired!" Stephen saw Jake spot the wire, saw him raise his weapon, saw everything happen in slow motion. Tyler grabbed Amber, pulling her against him as a shield. His other men drew weapons. FBI agents emerged from hiding positions, shouting commands. Red laser sights danced across the darkness. "Drop your weapons, FBI! Back off or the kid dies," Jake screamed. But Amber, brave, smart Amber, did what Stephen never expected. She stomped down hard on Tyler's instep with her heel, exactly as Donna must have taught her for self-defense. Tyler's grip loosened for just a second, and Amber twisted away, running toward Stephen. Gunfire erupted. Stephen grabbed Amber, shielding her with his body as he dove behind his car. Bullets pinged off metal. Men shouted. The night exploded with muzzle flashes and chaos. It lasted maybe 30 seconds, but felt like hours. When the shooting stopped, Stephen looked up cautiously. Tyler was on the ground, clutching his shoulder, blood seeping between his fingers. Jake and another man were face down, hands being cuffed behind their backs. The fourth man was down, not moving. Stephen didn't know if he was dead or unconscious. FBI agents swarmed the scene. Agent Park ran to Stephen and Amber. "Are you hurt, either of you?" Stephen checked himself, checked Amber. We're okay." Amber was crying, trembling but unhurt. Stephen held her tight, feeling her small heart racing against his chest. Detective Morrison approached Tyler, who was being given medical attention while handcuffed. "Tyler Jackson, you're under arrest for kidnapping, assault with a deadly weapon, drug trafficking, and about 20 other charges. You have the right to remain silent." Tyler looked past Morrison to where Stephen held Amber. For a moment, their eyes met. Stephen saw no remorse there, but maybe, just maybe, a flicker of something human. Then Tyler looked away. 2 weeks passed in a blur of statements, paperwork, and court proceedings. Tyler Jackson was denied bail, facing kidnapping and assault charges on top of the drug trafficking case the FBI had built using Emily's evidence. His lawyers were already talking about a plea deal, but the prosecutors estimated he'd get 25 years minimum. Jake Reynolds and Pete Doyle, Tyler's associates, were looking at 15 to 20 years each. The fourth man had survived with a shoulder wound and was cooperating with investigators. The corrupt officer who'd leaked Amber's location was identified, a 20-year veteran with gambling debts. He was arrested and charged. For Stephen, the legal resolution came faster than expected. The DNA test confirmed his biological relationship to Amber. Linda Martinez, the social worker, conducted her evaluation and filed a glowing report. Robert Hayes pushed the emergency custody petition through, and within 10 days, Stephen Moore had temporary full custody of his granddaughter. The permanent adoption process would take a few more months, but it was essentially a formality now. Amber was his. 3 weeks after the lighthouse, Stephen drove Amber to the cemetery where Donna and Brian were buried. They brought flowers, yellow roses for Donna, white lilies for Brian. Amber knelt by Donna's headstone, arranging the roses carefully. "Hi, Grandma. It's me. Grandpa Stephen came, just like you said he would. He saved me from the bad men." Her voice caught. "I miss you so much." Stephen knelt beside her, placing lilies on Brian's grave. "Hey, son. I'm sorry it took me so long to find her, but I've got her now. I'm going to take care of her, I promise. She's amazing, Brian. She's brave and smart and kind, just like you were." Tears ran down his face. "I wish you could see her. I wish you could know her." "Daddy's watching," Amber said softly. "Grandma said people we love never really leave us. They stay in our hearts." They sat there for a long time, the autumn wind rustling leaves around them. Finally, Stephen pulled out one more envelope, the last letter Donna had left, which he'd found in a safety deposit box Robert Hayes had directed him to. "Stephen, if you're reading this, it means you've accepted Amber. It means you've fought for her, protected her, loved her. I knew you would. Even when you doubted yourself, I knew. You have the biggest heart of anyone I've ever known. When Brian died, that heart broke. I watched you struggle for years to put the pieces back together. I couldn't add more weight to that burden, not until you were ready. But I always knew that when you met Amber, when you looked into those eyes that are so perfectly Brian's, you would love her. Because that's who you are, Stephen Moore. You're a man who loves deeply, completely, forever. Brian would be so proud of the grandfather you're going to be. I'm proud of you. Amber is special. She's been through things no child should experience, but she hasn't let it make her hard or bitter. She still believes in goodness and love and family. Protect that. Nurture it. Let her teach you how to laugh again. I'm sorry for the secrets. I'm sorry for the pain. But I'm not sorry for saving Amber, and I hope in time you won't be either. Take care of our granddaughter. Take care of yourself. And remember, love doesn't end, not really, end. Not. I'll always be with you both. Forever yours, Donna." Stephen folded the letter carefully, his vision blurred with tears. Amber leaned against him, and they sat together in the quiet cemetery, 3 generations bound by love and loss and hope. 3 months later, the beach house looked transformed. Fresh paint gleamed on the exterior walls, not yellow this time, but a soft mint green that Amber had chosen. The porch was rebuilt and sturdy, complete with a swing where Amber loved to read. The yard was tended, the weeds cleared, and a small garden was taking shape. Inside was even more remarkable. Stephen had kept Donna's room as a memorial, but the rest of the house was now truly their home. Amber's artwork covered the refrigerator. Her books lined shelves Stephen had built. The hidden room behind her bookshelf had been converted into a cozy reading nook. Stephen had sold his city condo and retired early. The beach house, once a place of painful memories, had become a place of healing. Mrs. Patterson visited twice a week, baking cookies and telling stories. Detective Morrison stopped by occasionally to check on them. Even Agent Park had sent a card thanking them for their courage. Today was special. Amber's 10th birthday. The house filled with guests, school friends Amber had made, Mrs. Patterson with a towering cake, Linda Martinez with a wrapped present, Detective Morrison and her partner, Robert Hayes with his own children in tow. "Make a wish, birthday girl," Mrs. Patterson called as everyone gathered around the cake, 10 candles flickering. Amber closed her eyes, thought for a moment, then blew out the candles in one breath. Everyone cheered. Later, after the guests had left and the house was quiet, Stephen and Amber sat on the porch swing, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of orange and pink. "What did you wish for?" Stephen asked. "Can't tell, or it won't come true," Amber said primly. Then she smiled. "But I can tell you what I'm thankful for." "What's that, sweetheart?" "That you came to the beach house that day, that you didn't give up on me, that we're a family now." She leaned against his shoulder. "Do you think Grandma Donna knew we'd be okay?" Stephen thought about Donna's letters, her careful planning, her faith in both of them. "I think she knew better than anyone." "And Daddy? Do you think he's happy about us?" Stephen looked up at the darkening sky where stars were beginning to appear. "I think your daddy is very, very happy and very proud of you." They sat in comfortable silence, the ocean breeze carrying the scent of salt and flowers from Amber's garden. Inside, through the window, Stephen could see the photo album he'd made. Pictures of Brian and Emily young and in love, photos of Donna and Amber from their 3 years together, and new pictures of Stephen and Amber building their life. "Grandpa?" Amber's voice was drowsy. "I'm glad the bad things happened." Stephen looked down at her, surprised. "Why?" "Because if they didn't, I wouldn't have you, and you wouldn't have me. And Grandma Donna always said that sometimes the hardest paths lead us to the places we were always meant to be." Stephen felt tears prick his eyes. At 67 years old, he'd thought his life was winding down. He'd thought the best parts were behind him. But this child, this miracle with Brian's eyes and Donna's wisdom, had shown him he was wrong. "I'm glad too, sweetheart," he whispered. "I'm glad too." As darkness fell and the lighthouse in the distance began its automated sweep across the water, Stephen carried a sleeping Amber inside and tucked her into bed. Mr. Whiskers sat on her pillow, his belly neatly sewn, guardian of secrets now safely told. Stephen stood in the doorway for a moment, watching his granddaughter sleep, and felt something he hadn't felt in 12 years. Peace. The beach house held no more secrets. The past had been reconciled. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but hopeful. Tomorrow, they would make pancakes for breakfast. Amber would tell him about the book she was reading. They would work in the garden, walk on the beach, maybe fly the kite they'd bought last week. The simple, beautiful routine of family life. But tonight, Stephen simply stood in the doorway and whispered into the darkness, "Thank you, Donna. Thank you for protecting her. Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for giving us both a second chance." And somewhere, in the space between memory and hope, Stephen felt certain that Donna smiled.